and it's a pleasure to be here, His and Her Excellencies. This is the Temple of Science, the Academy of Sciences, established by Count Széchenyi 200 years ago. And when it's maybe not an accident that we met with Katalin about 20 years ago, Nagyszent, which was the home, family home of Count Széchenyi for a long time, in a conference organized by the Széchenyi Academy, an NGO, and we were talking about globalization and the future. And ever since, Katalin has been supporting our cause, which I will tell you in nutshell, hopefully a little more than nutshell, because I think that this BOMO is true, that if something can be told in nutshell, it will remain that. So we have to be a bit more in details. Where is the...
On the floor. I think it's all down.
Yes. So story, or our story, starts 40 years ago. We'll be very quick, so let me give you an anecdote. I was a student at then the Karl Marx University, which is today Corvinus University, when my professor told me, Professor Tamás Szentes, academician, still alive, 92 years old, he told me that he's going to be a member of the United Nations University Network and started to go to everywhere in the world, Mexico City, Madrid, etc., with conferences about topics we students have never heard. Never heard of global changes, the new international economic order, problems of and challenges of a new world war, nuclear war, etc. And then I had the pleasure to get the papers he collected there, and then I had a chance when I met our my young friends then from István Bibó College, where His Excellency Zsolt Németh was also a member, to give this knowledge further, to talk about this in a time that was the last years of communism, but it was very exceptional, I think, and I wasn't sure if they were really interested or but I was there an appointed so-called pedagogue, a mentor of the students who gathered in this elite college, which is today an advanced study college, named by István Bibó, one of the greatest political scientists and thinker of 20th century Hungary. And so it happened that the dangers of a nuclear war were accumulating, and there were peace initiatives, spontaneous ones, all over in Europe, but in Hungary too. There was a dialogue group, and the spirit was spreading that we students, we young people, we should not believe that we are nobodies, that we should shut up about international relations, because how can we say? And that students' spirit was spreading, and because I had the chance to participate in that time in the European peace movement and the East-West dialogue, and we created a network for East-West dialogue, we could discuss this with these excellent students of Bibó College. So that was basically how we started, and I think this is something which I have to remember, and I will tell you that we had an illusion. Professor Szentes, together with the General Secretary of the Academy of Sciences, Professor Kulcsár, decided to create a United Nations University Institute here, actually in the Academy of Sciences. But because of bureaucracy, etc., they went out of time, and in '89, the assumption was that it's unimportant now. The Cold War is over, 89, 90. We don't need a United Nations University Institute which is dealing with the problems of war and nuclear threat. And so it happened that 5 years ago, Professor Bogardi, who was the director of the Institute of United Nations University in Bonn, came to visit us in Kőszeg and became one of our external members, and he brought up this idea. Why should not we establish in this not very well-known Western Hungarian small city a similar kind of institutions? The story is too long. I don't give you all the details, but we started to negotiate together with the now vice rector of the university, UNU University, Shen Xiaomeng, and after several mutual visits, we came to the conclusion that we should try. And so we did. And thanks to the wisdom of present Hungarian government, the government became interested, and the UNU rector also became interested. So after several discussions, the conclusion was brought that we should try, and now this institute in Kőszeg is in statu nascendi. So I'm talking about something which is not yet finalized, but it seems that the Hungarian parliament is going to approve what we call the host country agreement, which is kind of a piece of law, which actually is going to establish a new United Nations University Institute in Hungary, in Kőszeg, which is unprecedented because this is going to be the first occasion that a former Soviet bloc country is going to have an institute like that. So very, very shortly, I know we agreed that we don't speak too much. This is this picturesque city. Some people believe it is too small for a United Nations University Institute. I heard very often, so why in Kőszeg? This is ridiculous. I think this is a kind of a very deep misunderstanding of our time. It's much deeper than the East-West divide and ideological divides. It's the obsession about numbers and might. Who has bigger army? Who has more soldiers, etc.? Who has a bigger economy? So, in a small city, why? Because several reasons, which I cannot give you, all of them. Some of them are very important, that this city has a very strong identity of being a city of schools. Second, I think there is a new tendency in the world, which is actually to bring knowledge, to bring new institutions to smaller places. And that I think we should talk about it more in details later. So we established an Institute of Advanced Studies in Kőszeg, which has an acronym IASK. It's a kind of a play with the words, with the letters. I ask and you answer. That's the saying. Institute of Advanced Studies Kőszeg, which was established 10 years ago, and officially the Institute of Advanced Studies initiated the establishment of the United Nations University in Kőszeg. This is a very special institution. Very shortly, it is very interdisciplinary, and it has a very interesting novelty. We believe that the creation of new knowledge has to be implemented, or at least those who are creating this new knowledge should try to find out how to use this in reality. So we have a very, very strictly academic program. Academic excellence is absolutely important, but the implementation in terms of city and regional development and also curricular development is also a must in the Institute. For that we have a program called CRAFT, Creative Cities and Sustainable Region. Well, about the Nover, Seeing from Kőszeg and from Western Hungary, it's, I wouldn't say the middle of the universe, but it's a very important location in equal distance from Bratislava, Wien, Graz, very close to Maribor, and not far from Zagreb. And it's a part of Central Europe where cultures, languages meet. To reach Vienna from Kőszeg is much easier than from Budapest. And we have a very, very interdisciplinary and international program. Thanks to also Katalin, we are possessing a UNESCO chair in cultural heritage management, and we have a winter school every year where people from all over the world, unfortunately not so many from the western part of the world, but many from Africa, from Asia, and Latin America are coming to Kőszeg. This is a UNESCO winter school, and the UNESCO chair was established in 2011. In the framework of our craft program, we renovated 10 buildings in Kőszeg, close to 10, among them the synagogue, which actually made the city again more global, because the builder of the founder of the synagogue, and Philip Shea, is in a worldwide global family who found us and who came back after 150 years to Kőszeg and celebrated this fantastic achievement of Philip Shea, who was an ecumenical donor and Mecenas. And in these beautiful buildings, we believed that the whole city is going to get a new impetus, and it happened so in the last 10 years. I don't go into details. We have a lot of international partners, and I skipped this as well. If anyone is interested, you can find us on the internet, of course. Now, this is a very interesting chart that shows the network of the UNU campuses worldwide, and it's, in my understanding, somewhat ironic and self-contradicting that most of the campuses are to be found in the most developed Western world. And here I completely agree with the previous speakers. We should rethink our institutions. We should not just celebrate the very existence of important institutions. We should understand their future possible role, and that they are, unfortunately, not up to the challenge of today's world. So the UN mission is translated to UNU Institute's agenda. These institutes are dealing with the most striking problems of the world: the pandemics, migration, war, and discrimination against women, and so on and so forth, and the global south, poverty, migration. But they are all located in the rich Western world. From that point of view, it's a small step forward that in the former Eastern Bloc, a new institute is going to be established. Yes, I'm not going to go into much details, but Katalin asked me to tell about the plans, what are going to be the research topics of this new institute when established. We had a lot of discussions about it. We also consulted with the rector, Cirici Marvala, and vice rector, and we came to the conclusion that we need a more compact, more interdisciplinary, and more complex approach. That is war, the reasons, the deep reasons of war, and peace, not armistice, not ceasefire, a long-lasting peace, new conditionality. How can we establish peace in the world? And the impact of the cutting-edge technology, AI, on everything what we call security, including human security, water, food, shelter, job, etc., which is much more much more than the security of the state, military security. So this is very complex, very ambitious, and we cannot do this by ourselves. The point is that we need cooperation. We are about creating a platform where like-minded institutions are together. What we suggested to the UNU, and they accepted, that certain regions who are not in the focus, not enough in the focus of the UN, but are very, very important, like the Western Balkans, or the Southern Caucasus, or Central Asia, should be closer partners, in closer partnership with us. And well, this is a chart what was put together by Sean Cleary, who participated in the scoping committee, who came to Kőszeg to investigate, to find out if it is possible or not. And this explains everything, this triangle of our biggest challenge of today's world, the triggering crisis in and after 25. What you have to the left, what we call a primitive mercantilism, protectionism through tariffs, efforts to reshore industry, etc. On the other side, the growing military spending. I have data, I don't give it to you, it is astonishing. Astonishing what happened to the world, and also our world, Europe, which has a Peace Nobel Prize from 2012 and remilitarizing in an astonishing speed, which is understandable. I agree that we cannot defend the soft power without hard power. But nobody talks about, yes, I finish, nobody talks about the other side of the coin, namely society and social peace and cooperation, what was mentioned by many of the speakers. And what we have down there is nationalist populism, which is unfortunately spreading. So here is my last point, that the peace idea, the peace initiatives are popping up even in this part of the world. I had a chance to visit Tbilisi, Sukhumi State University, where the rector initiated a new peace institute. He calls it the Georgian Peace Paradigm Institute, and he believes, I think it's a very good idea, that universities should play the role of diplomats. If diplomacy does not work as much as it should, universities with aggregating knowledge should play this role. And interestingly enough, and that's my last point, in Slovenia, with our partner Maribor University, alma mater Europa, the rector came to the same conclusion. So we have this kind of like-minded partners, but of course our purpose is research, science, strictly speaking, a deeper understanding of the causes of the problems. What shows this map? What we call the response gap, that we are exponentially spending more money on destructive purposes and very little for mitigating these problems. This is the response gap and the responsibility gap. And finally, my colleague and friend András Nagy is going to give a talk in the afternoon about his new book, which is about the relationship between UN and 56. And this is the title that tells a lot to all of us, Diplomacy and Disregard. The disregard is the major problem in our world, and this is why I think it's a very good idea to establish a small United Nations unit in Hungary. And we have to remember not only the 80th anniversary of the birth of United Nations, but the 69th anniversary of the Hungarian Revolution, which comes in 2 weeks. And our cry for freedom, thank you very much. Here you see all the members of the scoping committee. So we were accredited by a very truly international body of scholars, researchers from Africa, from Belgium, from Tirana, Albania, and from South Africa. And this is why the Hungarian government agreed upon supporting and actually financing this establishment of a United Nations University in Kőszeg. Thank you very much.